Hello everyone and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America, starting with Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Canada topped all other countries in the world in welcoming immigrants last year.
Mila Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Enforcement of self-certification for Pennsylvania restaurant owners to increase indoor capacity to 50%.
Philip Toledo in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta offers leave option for city employees to serve as election poll workers.
Lori Gervina in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Las Vegas celebrates National Hispanic Heritage Month, put spotlight on cuisine.
Nanita Manawas in Dallas has several stories for us tonight. Governor Abbott and the HHSC announced a $3.5 million federal funding for nursing facility safety projects. Governor Abbott issues a proclamation enhancing ballot security, and Texas cancels its state fair due to the pandemic, but offers a drive-through event. Now going to Los Angeles, California with John Akuma.
California awarded $48.5 million to Los Angeles to provide permanent housing to homelessness.
Plus, ABC friend Jim Sewell invites us to his vegetable garden in Pensacola, Florida, and shares with us his top 10 gardening do's. Our coverage begins now. First, an overview of the COVID-19 situation. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday, October 4, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 35 million. Top 3 countries with most number of recorded cases, starting with the USA at 7.4 million. Next is India at 6.5 million and Brazil at 4.9 million. Sadly, this virus has claimed more than 1,034,000 lives worldwide. Again, top 3 countries with most number of COVID-19 related deaths, starting again with US, more than 209,000. Second, Brazil, more than 145,000, and India, more than 101,000. Our coverage begins now. U.S. President Donald Trump's doctors said Sunday he has continued to improve as he is treated for COVID-19, revealing he could be discharged as early as Monday. His medical team said his oxygen levels had dropped twice briefly in recent days, and he is being treated with steroids. But they gave an upbeat assessment of the 74-year-old president's health and outlook. Trump's physician, Sean Conley, said since they spoke last, the president has continued to improve. As with any illness, there are frequent ups and downs over the course. Conley said the president was flown to Walter Reed Military Medical Center on Friday after a rapid progression of his illness, with his oxygen levels dropping worryingly low.
Over the course of his illness, the president has experienced 2 episodes of transient drops in his oxygen saturation. We debated the reasons for this and whether we'd even intervene. It was a determination of the team, based predominantly on the timeline from the initial diagnosis, that we initiate dexamethasone. Late Friday morning, when I returned to the bedside, the president had a high fever and his oxygen saturation was transiently dipping below 94%. Given these 2 developments, I was concerned for possible rapid progression of the illness. I recommended the president we try some supplemental oxygen, see how he'd respond. He was fairly adamant that he didn't need it. He was not short of breath. He was tired, had the fever, and that was about it.
President Trump received supplementary oxygen at the White House before being admitted. Brian Garibaldi, another of Trump's doctors, said the president had been up and around and was feeling well.
And we continue to plan to use a 5-day course of remdesivir. In response to transient low oxygen levels, as Dr. Conley has discussed, we did initiate dexamethasone therapy, and he received his first dose of that yesterday, and our plan is to continue that for the time being. Today he feels well. He's been up and around. Our plan for today is to have him to eat and drink, be up out of bed as much as possible, to be mobile, And if he continues to look and feel as well as he does today, our hope is that we can plan for a discharge as early as tomorrow to the White House, where he can continue his treatment course.
White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows had said on Saturday that Trump's health had left the doctors very concerned, but that he had improved and there was never a risk he would have had to hand over power. Meadows' comments to Fox News capped a day of back and forth in which conflicting reports about the president's health created widespread confusion. Late Saturday, Conley warned that Trump was not yet out of the woods, but that the medical team was cautiously optimistic. The president posted a video to Twitter late Saturday appearing relaxed in an open collar shirt and blue suit jacket, telling viewers he would be back soon, but acknowledging that the crucial coming days would be the real test.
The chief and I work side by side, and I think his statement was misconstrued. What he meant was that 24 hours ago, when he and I were checking on the president, that there was that momentary episode of the high fever and that temporary drop in the saturation, which prompted us to act expediently to move him up here. Fortunately, that was really a very transient, limited episode. Well, the president wears a mask anytime he's around us, and we're all wearing our N95s, full PPE. He's the patient, and when we can, when he'll move out into to public, we move him out and around other people that aren't in full PPE. I assure you, he'll as long as he's still under my care, we'll talk about him wearing a mask.
Here are some reactions to President Trump and his wife contracting COVID-19. Take a look.
It's really unfortunate that he's come down with the virus, as well as his wife, and also some of the folks in the White House. It just once again shows us that science is real, that we need to respect what our physicians say, and that everybody is vulnerable. It doesn't matter what color you are, how much money you make, or where you come from. We all need to respect each other as people, and if we are mandated to wear a mask, we should wear a mask. If the mask is lifted, then it's lifted, but it's about caring about each other. It's not about me. Clearly, at any given time in time, something could happen to our president or could happen to any one of us. To want negative things to happen to our president is not okay. I understand the anger out there, but you know, I think we just need to go with let's wish for the best and not think of all the negative things that can happen if in fact he was to wind up acutely ill and on a ventilator. I do believe we're a very strong country, and we've pulled together for many, many things, such as Katrina and the hurricanes and fires and shootings like all over the country. So hopefully we would all band together and be as one and help us to rise up, and our leaders in the White House would be able to take over and run the country. That's how I feel.
To hear about the president and the first lady getting COVID, I thought that they were that they were better protected, that there was more security, and I mean, it shoes us how it doesn't matter who you are or how safe you are or how careful you are. It really can happen to anyone. So yes, I was very shocked and very surprised, but I don't want anyone to get sick. I don't wish that on anyone. Of course, I hope for their speedy recovery, and we have some important dates coming up. We have an election coming up. We have hopefully the end of COVID.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calls on Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to delay Supreme Court nomination hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett, deeming them not safe for senators and staff members after 3 Republican senators were diagnosed with COVID-19.
Mitch McConnell seems to be jamming through the hearings on Amy Coney Barrett, even though 3 senators have COVID, even though he has said it's not safe for the Senate to meet in session, but it's okay to have the hearings. It makes no sense. If it's not safe for the Senate to meet in session, it's not safe for the hearings to go forward. And the idea of having virtual hearings where no one is with the witness for the highest court in the land, for a life appointment that would have such effect on people's lives, makes no sense. A virtual hearing is virtually no hearing at all. You need to be with the witness and have direct cross questions and back and forth with them. There is no reason on God's green earth why these shouldn't be delayed other than an effort to rush a witness through in an inadequate hearing where people can't even see the witness face to face. So we are demanding today, along with millions of Americans and many, many groups, that the hearings be postponed. If McConnell believes they should be postponed in the Senate, they should be postponed at the hearing level.
In other news, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio said Sunday he planned to put 9 neighborhoods back under tight shutdown as COVID-19 cases rise in parts of the city, which had largely controlled the pandemic after a catastrophic outbreak.
So today, unfortunately, is not a day for celebration. Today is a more difficult day, and I'm going to be giving an update that gives me no joy at all. In fact, it pains me to be putting forward this approach that we'll need. But in some parts of our city, in Brooklyn and Queens, we're having an extraordinary problem, something we haven't seen since the spring. But it is necessary to stop the spread of the coronavirus in these communities and beyond. And it's necessary for the good of all of New York City, which still overall continues to have a very low positivity level. We have to keep it that way. So again, pending approval from the state of New York, starting Wednesday morning, public and non-public schools would be closed in these areas. If we contain this situation in the 9 key zip codes and the 11 on the watch list, we can stop this from spreading more deeply into New York City. We can stop this from being a quote-unquote second wave in New York City. But in these communities, it is a very troublesome reality that must be addressed very aggressively.
The proposal, which must be approved by State Governor Andrew Cuomo, marks a major setback for the city since it was hit hard by the coronavirus in March. The city has lost almost 24,000 people to the virus. Several of the 9 neighborhoods have large populations of Orthodox Jews, and the virus has been spreading rapidly in that community in recent weeks. The increases coincided with the Jewish high holidays, the most holy days in the Jewish calendar, that culminated last Monday with Yom Kippur. De Blasio said he intended to rewind the city's reopenings in the worst affected areas, according to the New York Times. The city is also monitoring 11 additional zip codes that de Blasio described as a real concern. New York became the global epicenter of the pandemic in spring, but more recently, officials had touted the lowest test positivity rate and infection rate among major U.S. cities. Coming up, updates from our correspondents in Edmonton, Alberta, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll return shortly. This is Eagle News America.
The New Era University, in its 45th year of excellence, discipline, and service to humanity, will offer online education all levels beginning this first semester academic year 2020 to 2021 through the NEU Virtual Learning Environment, or NEU VLE. New Era University offers a complete basic education cycle from kindergarten up to senior high school, offering all strands. NEU has 18 colleges. And 2 graduate schools. It also offers ALS and ETF. Best of all, NEU has the most affordable tuition fees among private universities in the Philippines. NEU is at Quezon City, the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, General Santos City, South Cotabato, Lipa City, Batangas, and Pinugay, Baras, Rizal.
New Era University is under the stewardship of Dr. Dilo L. Rosas.
What are you waiting for? Be part of the new normal. Enroll now. Classes start on October 5, 2020.
You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. In 2019, Canada ranks number 1 among countries in welcoming immigrants. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness joins us tonight. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. Well, how welcome are immigrants in your country? The latest poll from Gallup shows last year Canada was the most accepting country in the world for newcomers. Now, Canada was followed by Iceland, New Zealand, and Australia. The United States in 6th place. Now, Gallup created what it calls an acceptance index. It's based on 3 questions asked to people in 145 countries. Now, the questions asked whether people think migrants living in their country, becoming neighbors, and marrying into their families are good things or bad things. Very simple. Well, here's some interesting history. Back in 2017, I should say, both Canada and the United States topped the list. But since then, the immigration policies in the 2 countries have followed different paths. While Canada continued to put out the welcome mat, U.S. President Donald Trump is less apt to answer the door and invite people in. Now, the pandemic, of course, has had a big effect on immigration numbers in Canada. According to Statistics Canada, just over 34,000 people moved to the country in the second quarter of this year. Sounds like a lot, but you know, a year earlier, that number was almost 3 times as much, 94,000. And that's bad news for our economy in the long run, the lower number, that is. You see, our aging population means the country relies on immigration to fill its workforce. And economists say it's important that immigration levels recover next year to make up for the lost growth. Still with immigration, Canada is easing its border restrictions to allow in foreign students as well as non-citizens who are in an exclusive dating relationship with a Canadian. A ban on non-essential international entries was extended this week until the end of October as the country grapples with a new surge in coronavirus. But Immigration Minister Marco Mendicino says travel restrictions should not keep loved ones apart. The border changes go into effect on Thursday. Under the new rules, foreign partners in an exclusive dating relationship of at least 1 year, as well as their children, their grandparents, and siblings, will be allowed into Canada. It will also allow in foreign nationals for compassionate reasons. These would be things like life-threatening illness, critical injury, or death. Foreign students accepted to Canadian universities that have an approved COVID-19 readiness plan in place will also be let in. This starts on the 20th of this month. Travelers will need to apply and be issued authorization before they can arrive in Canada, and upon arrival, they'll have to self-isolate for 14 days. So, while we wait for our borders to be less restricted, I wish you all good health. Remember to take care of others, take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas, for your report. Now, I'm wondering, actually, with the last quarter of the year and them changing up the rules, hopefully you can make up for some of that lost numbers, huh?
Yeah, well, we'll make up for a little bit. Right now, the Canadian immigration officials are giving priority to Canadian and permanent residents who want to return to the country. Vulnerable groups, of course, this would be like refugees, and also work permits for people who perform essential works. I'm quite sure if an infectious disease specialist wanted to immigrate to Canada, that's something that would be fast-tracked.
Well, I often hear you say, Thomas, that when the U.S. coughs, Canada catches a cold. So,
you know that's true.
Well, thank you, Thomas, for your report. Happy to join you.
Thank you, Anna, and you take care.
Okay. In an effort to increase indoor dining capacity to 50%, Pennsylvania is to enforce what is called self-certification for restaurant owners. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan explains the procedure. Myla?
Thanks, Anna. Last September 21st, Governor Tom Wolf announced that restaurants may increase indoor occupancy to 50% to ensure that these businesses operate safely as Pennsylvania continues to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and to instill customers and employees with confidence knowing that they can dine safely. Restaurants will commit to strictly complying with all public health safety guidelines and orders through a self-certification process. Here's Dennis Davin, Secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development, or DCED, to tell us more about the self-certification process. Take a look.
This is something, in terms of self-certification, the governor announced a couple of weeks ago for restaurants to have the ability to self-certify, and by self-certifying, they would be able to increase their capacity from 25% to 50%, something that the Restaurant Lodging Association has been asking about. So from our perspective, what we're requiring is a certification process. And by certifying that your restaurant is taking the appropriate precautions, having a safe environment for your workers, for employees, and then also for your patrons, that allows you the ability then to increase the capacity from 25% to 50%.
The self-certification documents and information about the Open and Certified Pennsylvania program can be found online and will contain the following: a list of requirements contained in the current restaurant industry guidance and enforcement efforts, a statement that the owner has reviewed and agrees to follow the requirements, the business's maximum indoor occupancy number based on the fire code, and a statement that the owner understands that the certification is subject to penalties for unsworn falsification to authorities. Restaurants can access the online self-certification form on pa.gov/COVID. The recently announced self-certification process enables restaurants, private social clubs, and food service businesses that serve dine-in, sit-down food in a regular non-event capacity to increase indoor occupancy to 50% while adhering to mitigation efforts that will keep employees and customers safe. Self-certification is required for restaurants to increase their indoor capacity to 50%. So how much will it cost to self-certify? Here's Russell Redding, Pennsylvania Secretary of Department of Agriculture. Take a look.
The program is free. We can work with each of the restaurants, but important that they can enroll free, and it's voluntary. Participating restaurants receive, a listing of the searchable public, open and certified PA business directory. permission to increase capacity from 25% to 50%, the free, open, and certified Pennsylvania signs to publicly present their both compliance, but also they're participating in the self-certification, and that's helpful for all of the businesses to sort of publicly present that, and we can help you with making that possible.
Restaurants that self-certify will appear in an open and certified Pennsylvania searchable online database of certified restaurants across the Commonwealth, and will receive an open and certified Pennsylvania branded window cling designated their certification, which they can display for customers and employees. There is no cost to self-certification. The window clings will be mailed to a restaurant's physical address at no cost. There's also misinformation on social media right now regarding the self-certification process. Here's Dennis Davin again to give us more insight.
There's a lot of misinformation out there in the public and social media, and it's simply not true. The idea here is that there's what all of the restaurants were asking to do this. We're asking them to do this again to make sure that people are confident in when they go to those restaurants, and they're taking the proper procedures. We will then put all the restaurants that self-certify on a website that people can go to see if a restaurant does self-certify, essentially saying that they're going to make sure that they have a safe environment, safe working environment, and safe environment for their patrons. That's the idea behind this. The idea is not to have any additional penalties for the restaurants, any type of liability for the restaurants. It is simply for the ability for the restaurants to show the public that they are doing the right thing. They're taking the proper procedures to make sure that they have a safe environment for their patrons.
Social distancing, masking, and other mitigation measures must be employed to protect workers and patrons. Enforcement of the 50% indoor capacity will begin on October 5th. So restaurants that choose to increase indoor capacity to 50% before October 5th must complete the online self-certification process by that date. However, the self-certification process will remain available after October 5th for restaurants that choose to self-certify in the future. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla, for your report. It sounds like the good old honor system, right? With them, doing their self-certification. Hopefully,
that's correct. Yes.
Hopefully, this will encourage them more compliance with all the rules and regulations they have to follow. Now, I'm wondering, when will this enforcement start?
So, and the enforcement will begin October 5th. If a restaurant is operating 25% and 58% indoor capacity has not self-certified, they will be subject to penalties. Information regarding violations will be shared with the Departments of State Labor and Industry and Health and other enforcement agencies. Anna?
So that's tomorrow. Well, we hope to hear updates on how that goes over there, Myla. Thank you for joining us tonight. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Anna.
Up next, reports from Atlanta, Georgia, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Eagle News America will return in a moment. Stay with us.
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliet Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden. Die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten. Sie wertschätzen.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. Kung ikaw ay 21 to 59 years old at may angking galing sa pagkanta, mapa-solo, duet, trio o banda man, magpadala na ng audition entry. Narito ang mga guidelines. Para makapagpasa ng entry sa singing category, contact Nikki sa 0977-651-9504. Ito na ang pagkakataon mo para maging tagisan ng galing grand winner at manalo ng 2 million pesos. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, i-like ang Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. Kaya sali na!
Welcome back. This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui. The state of Atlanta offers city employees a leave option to serve as poll workers for the November 2020 election. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo has the details. Philip?
Thanks, Anna. As we're getting closer to Election Day, the city of Atlanta is taking additional steps to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Last week, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms issued an executive order for city employees to take up to 8 hours leave to be able to serve as poll workers. Now, this is important because there was sharp criticism during the most recent primary elections in June and other local elections where many voters in the city waited for hours on end to cast their ballot. And that's key because those are elections that historically don't have such a high turnout. So as we think about the general election in November, that's something to worry about. Some went so far as to make allegations of voter suppression happening in the city. So this executive order is one way that the Atlanta mayor is doing what she can to help make sure that all registered voters have a chance to efficiently fulfill their civic duty. She said, quote, "This order provides an opportunity for city employees to participate in helping to protect the constitutional right to vote during one of the most historic elections of our lifetime." Now, this order also increased the amount of paid hours a city worker can take off to vote in the general election. Before it was just 2, and the order increases that to 4 paid hours. Now, this comes as Democrat, Republican, and other nonpartisan groups are really intensifying campaigns to get people to register to vote as registration deadlines are drawing near or in some cases have already passed. In fact, it's going to be very interesting to see how voter turnout is going to be in the midst of the current pandemic. In fact, as of 3 p.m. today, Georgia has over 322,000 cases of COVID-19 and over 7,000 deaths. All the major metrics are trending downwards, which is a good sign. However, we have to remain vigilant. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Phil Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip, for your report. Now, you mentioned the number of cases there in Georgia. And then with the President Trump testing positive as well and being diagnosed with COVID-19, I'm not going to put you on the spot, Philip, and ask you what your reaction is, but what has been the reaction of the residents there where you are?
It's been, thanks for the question, Anna. It's been very mixed. I think a lot of people, regardless of the political polarization of the current environment, a lot of people were just surprised to see that happen. Even though many have their opinion about the president and what steps he may be taking to help mitigate the spread in his own right, but still the president of the United States, you have to think that, regardless, he's got a lot of protection around him. In fact, just like many other, government officials, the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, he tweeted his support of the president. But also I want to point out that Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who many times has had very sharp criticism of the president, as well as just in general is the opposite political party from him. She also, just a couple months ago, was diagnosed herself, and her husband is someone who contracted the disease, and I believe they call him a long hauler, where even though months after originally being diagnosed, he's still got lingering effects. So she also tweeted her support, which I think is important to note because it just reminds us that, you know, at the end of the day, the virus doesn't care, you know, what your political affiliation is or, you know, if you're male or female or whatever. The virus is just a virus, so we all have to be very careful.
Exactly, and it's good to see that all the support that the president is getting from, like you said, doesn't matter what political affiliation they have. Everything is coming together, and everyone is coming together, giving him the well wishes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Philip, for your report. Pleasure to have you on. Take care.
Thank you, Anna.
October is National Hispanic Month, and in Las Vegas, Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina shares with us how the community here is celebrating despite pandemic restrictions. Lori?
Thank you, Anna. And hello from Las Vegas, Nevada. President Trump came to Las Vegas for the Latinos for Trump Roundtable event on September 13, 2020, where he said to them, and I quote, "Hispanic American enrich our nation beyond measure. You start small businesses, and I can tell you from my personal experience, you are very good businessmen and women. You embody the American dream," unquote. The population of Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is located, is made up of 34% Latino residents. As such, it is only natural that Hispanic heritage is celebrated. National Hispanic Heritage Month is from September 15th through October 15th. And in my opinion, there is no better way to celebrate culture than through the wonderful exploration of food. The city of Las Vegas recognizes the Hispanic and Latino Americans in the United States and celebrates the group's heritage and culture. On the LasVegasNevada.gov website, several local restaurants were highlighted to showcase Hispanic cuisine. Among the restaurants showcased included Baja Mar Seafood and Tacos, which specializes in Baja California flavors and aims to create a surf shack type of vibe. 3 families came together to open this restaurant in 2017 with recipes inspired by the head chef's own grandmother. Another restaurant featured is Birreria Dimas, which specializes in Mexican beef birria. The meat is pot roasted for up to 6 hours in a secret sauce. This business began taking only orders in 2019 and now has a food truck that opened earlier this year. For those who haven't tried birria, I would describe it as the most flavorful beef taco with shredded meat that you dip into the accompanying soup-like sauce for even more depth of flavor. Peruvian and Salvadorian food are also featured here in Las Vegas. At the restaurant Peru Chicken, they are famous for pollos a la brasa, Peruvian rotisserie chicken. And at Salvadoreno restaurant, they specialize in traditional pupusas and other authentic Salvadorian dishes. Puerto Rican food can be found at a place called Sofrito Rico, which was voted Best of Las Vegas for Best Ethnic and Cultural Restaurant for 4 years in a row since it was established in 2015. This is definitely also on my list of places to try. But what really caught my eye was a restaurant called Viva Las Arepas. They started out from a cart on Las Vegas Boulevard, and 2 years later, they have a storefront now on the same boulevard. They were selected as Best of Las Vegas for Best Latin Restaurant and also beloved by many Yelp fans who attest that they have the best Venezuelan arepas in the valley. The arepa is a flat brown patty made of maize flour, which can be grilled, fried, or even boiled, kind of like a thick tortilla. At Viva Las Arepas, their arepas are filled with wood-fired beef, chicken, pork, or shrimp. Their menu also consists of a cheese and corn-filled arepa called chachapa con queso, which was also highly praised. The colorful ambiance and cheerful vibes was definitely inviting to a first-time customer like myself. In fact, the manager, Cindy Luna, was so personable and engaging. What I also appreciated was that it was evidence that the importance of safety due to COVID requirements was fully enforced in this establishment. Here's what Cindy had to say.
This is Hispanic Heritage Month. We are obviously a Latino culture. That's what we're known for. During COVID, how has it affected us? Well, it has affected us in some way, but obviously We have been taking every precautions there is to take. Everybody wears their mask. Everybody's 6 feet apart. We're being very clean, very sanitary. We're keeping everything under control. So far, so good.
She was great to talk to. What a great way to learn about Hispanic culture and fulfill my foodie cravings. I could talk about food all day. I'll take this opportunity to encourage everyone to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and learn more about Hispanic culture while trying some good eats. In Las Vegas, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News, we live in interesting and delicious times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori. That made me more hungry right now. But I heard you tried the arepas, and that's Venezuelan. What did you think about it?
Yes, I did, and that was my first foray into Venezuelan food. It was delicious. It was absolutely a burst of flavor, just like when you walk into the restaurant and see all those colorful designs, and just the ambiance was so lively. That's exactly what the food tasted like. It was a party in your mouth. Back to you, Anna.
Well, thank you so much, Lori, for sharing that. We'll have to try that when we get the chance. Thank you for your report. Up next, reports from Dallas, Texas, and Los Angeles, California. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Bye-bye! Gustong-gusto ko yung fake news. Bakit di nila makukuha yung tamang sagot?
Bawal ang fake news. Bawal mali-mali.
Tonto ako sa fake news, hindi nila makuha yung tamang sagot.
Team Papa Hip Hop Queen!
Ang gusto ko yung PN's the key.
Kasi nakaka-relate din ako dyan. Yung misis ko madalas umorder eh.
Ang red ba? Ang purple or cancel?
Gusto rin namin magbigay ng pag-asa sa ating kapwa, lalo na sa panahon ngayon.
Ang gusto ko dyan, ayudawan, nakatulong na, nakakatawa pa.
Driver Grab, nag-deliver, driver Grab.
Ang gusto ko po dyan yung ayudawan kasi marami pong natutulungan na tao.
Salamat po. Maraming salamat po unang-una po sa ama.
Maraming salamat po. Ikwento ko po ito sa aking mga anak.
Gusto ko sa appetite, maalis tayo. Tonto kay KitKat.
Iyan o.
Iyan o.
Kumusta po? Ito po si Wawi Di Guzman, ang inyong lingkod. At samahan niyo po akong sumayaw at kuminda para po sa pinakamalaking talent search on Philippine television. Ito po ang part 2 ng Tagisan ng Galing. Dito lamang po sa Net25. Kita-kit!
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back to Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Eagle News correspondent Nanita Manawas in Dallas brings us 3 stories this evening. First, Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the HHSC announced a $3.5 million in federal funding to help keep nursing facilities safe for both residents and their families. Plus, Governor Abbott issues a proclamation regarding ballot security enhancement. And Texas State Fair is canceled this year due to COVID-19, but a drive-through option is available to still celebrate somehow. Let's take a look.
Howdy from the Lone Star State of Texas. For the Texas COVID-19 situation as of today, October 4, there are 765,894 confirmed cases, of which there are 680,083 estimated recoveries and 16,025 fatalities. The last reported daily new cases is 2,181. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, or HHSC, made an announcement last Friday, the 2nd of October, regarding the $3.5 million federal funding for nursing facilities to purchase plexiglass barriers and tents. On a press release on the Texas Governor's website, the governor said that with this funding, we will help keep the nursing facility residents and their families safe while ensuring that the residents can be with their loved ones and receive the support they need. Up to $3,000 per facility can be received by the nursing facilities that are approved by the Texas HHSC. Application for this funding begins Monday, October 5, 2020 through HHSC. For more information on how to apply for funding or for the details of in-person visitation rules in nursing facilities, check the Texas HHS website. On Thursday, October 1st, Governor Abbott released a proclamation regarding the enhancement of ballot security. On a press release posted on the governor's website, it stated that under this proclamation beginning October 2nd, 2020, mail ballots that are delivered in person by voters who are qualified to vote by mail must be delivered to a single early voting clerk's office location as publicly designated by a county's early voting clerk. There were oppositions to this order of the governor of limiting mail ballot drop-offs to one per county, and on Friday, October 2nd, the League of Women Voters of Texas, on its official Twitter account, posted that the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, Texas branch, and the League of Women Voters of Texas, as well as two individual voters, have sued the Texas Governor Greg Abbott for his order Thursday. Check the Texas Governor's website for the full copy of the Governor's proclamation. Now, meantime, the State Fair of Texas has been canceled this year due to the pandemic, but it is currently hosting a drive-through event where fairgoers can still visit the Big Tex and pick up some of the fair food favorites. According to the Big Tex website, fairgoers are required to stay in their cars all throughout the duration of the drive-thru, with the exception of the Big Tex photo experience and if the fairgoers are going to use the restroom. However, visitors can bring a picnic setup and they can stop to eat in one of the fair's parking lots prior to exiting the fairgrounds. The Big Tex Fair Food drive-thru runs until October 18. Reporting from Dallas, Texas, I am Nanita Manawes, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Nanita. Now, the fight against homelessness continues in the City of Angels, and to help the city win the struggle, California awards Los Angeles with $48.5 million to provide permanent housing to those without a home. In Los Angeles, Eagle News correspondent John Okuma has the details. John?
Thank you, Anna. California awarded $48.5 million to Los Angeles to provide permanent housing to homeless. With the great progress of Project Room Key, California extended its ongoing effort to combat homelessness in the state with the introduction of Home Key. Home Key is organized by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, which provides $600 million in funding to the counties, cities, and public departments to buy buildings, including hotels, motels, and apartments, and innovate them to becoming more permanent housing for those who are homeless or in danger of being homeless. The $600 million Home Key grant funds consist of $50 million coming from the California Federal Coronavirus Aid Relief Fund and $50 million coming from the State General Fund. The $550 million Federal Coronavirus Aid Relief Fund must be used by December 30 of this year, and the $50 million State General Fund must be spent by June 30 of next year. Los Angeles had approved the receiving grant funding under this Home Key program. California is awarded $48.5 million to the city of Los Angeles to purchase 5 buildings and facilities, in total of 269 units, and reconstructing them as permanent housing projects and solutions for those who are homeless, including families or individual residents. The Housing Authority of the Los Angeles will oversee and manage these projects. The 5 projects of Los Angeles include 1, an $8.96 million residential building in Hollywood, which had 40 studios and 1-bedroom unit. 2, a $2.2 million 11-unit property in Hollywood. 3, a $15.4 million 91-room facility. 4, a $13.3 million 75-unit facility. And 5, an $8.6 million 52-unit motel. The Los Angeles mayor has dedicated so much of city effort in finding solutions to the homeless crisis, such as projects like a bridge home and other supportive services. These grant funding from the state will greatly help the city progress to bring those living in the street indoors to more public housing. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti states that the city of Los Angeles has housed thousands of our homeless neighbors at an unprecedented rate with the COVID-19 crisis has begun. At this moment, demands that we all step up together to create even more housing in the upcoming month. I am grateful for Governor Newsom at his word to deliver additional funding, which helps us expand our shelter capacity and bring housing and service to the people in the community who needs it most. In Los Angeles, California, John Okuma, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you so much, John, for your report. We'll love to hear more about it the next time we have you on. Now, we are also lucky tonight because in this episode, we get to hear from EBC friend Jim Sewell as he shares with us some very useful tips to successfully grow our own veggies. And this special treat comes in 2 parts, but tonight we'll bring you the top do's for growing our own vegetable garden. Take a look.
Hello, this is Jim Sewell in Pensacola, Florida, and I want to share with you my top do's for backyard gardening. We'll go out in my garden in a second, but first I want to provide my number 1 do, and that is do have a goal.
My goal for starting a garden was for me and my family to eat healthy by eating more vegetables and ensuring those vegetables were not loaded with herbicides and pesticides.
Organic vegetables in the store can be expensive, so growing as much as I can in our backyard has helped us to stay on budget while getting healthy.
Since starting our garden, we always have a steady supply of fresh vegetables.
To realize my goal even more, we now regularly have plenty of vegetables to freeze, like these long beans, and we're starting to enjoy some canned treats like this yummy salsa verde and my crowd-pleasing bread and butter pickles.
Don't try to put in all the beds at once. I have about 13 beds here that are 4x4 raised beds, but I put them in all over the course of about 3 years. And a big reason for that, I knew I was going to have some beds across the back. I knew it was going to get that good sun in the morning, and I knew this wall would kind of protect it from the heat behind it. And frankly, it was something that was already flat. So I went and put a couple beds here, but I didn't put these beds in until after I kind of got familiar with my environment in this garden. You know, I made some assumptions, but the best thing to do your first year, you know, definitely put in a bed or 2, but try to utilize pots. You know, if you can get some big black pots like these, they're great. And the reason why they're great, especially when you're in a new garden space, is because, you know, you can move things around the yard. You can find out what grows best in what places. That's it. I've got this nice little compost bin that we keep in the house. fill it up full of all kinds of garden waste. Of course, when you start growing a lot of vegetables, you're going to have all kinds of peelings and different things from all your great vegetables. Get you a bin like this. I really like this compost bin, mostly because it's going to turn your kitchen scraps and your other garden scraps, it's going to turn it into really rich, fertilized, dense soil in a matter of just a week or two. So another big do is to plant thick and then thin. And one of the good reasons to do this is, especially if you're trying to grow organically, is that the bugs, they might get a hold of your plant and you might lose a lot. So if you have a lot growing, there's a good chance that, the healthiest ones are going to be able to withstand the bug, and then you can kind of get rid of the ones you don't like. Another great thing is that a lot of plants, the smaller they are, the more nutrient dense they are. Seems weird, but it turns out that those tiny little lettuce leaves or those tiny little spinach leaves have more vitamins in them than the bigger ones. And they refer to them as microgreens. So another good reason to plant thick and then thin is that you can kind of eat as you go. It's like you get multiple harvests. You start eating the small stuff, put them in your salad, and it gets a little bit bigger. And it's like this aromat. I'm going to go ahead and pull some of this stuff out, but I'm going to keep some of the leaves, and I'm going to go ahead and use them while I'm thinning this pot out because they're just getting too crowded. But honestly, I can keep things growing year-round, and that's a big do. Keep things growing year-round. There's really no reason to have this planting season and a harvest season, especially when you're just in your backyard and you're providing for your family. So I keep something growing year-round. Down here we have water spinach that's been growing, and I just put it in here a couple weeks ago. And I just put it in here a couple weeks ago because I've already got a harvest of snow peas from it. And before that harvest of snow peas, I actually had from the fall, I had some guilan growing, which is like Chinese broccoli. So this has really just been producing and producing for it. Also, try switching up your timing. So that's another big do. Here, I'm so proud of my cucumbers. I got them in early, and it's really paid off. In previous years, I tried to put them in around, the first part of April, and the bugs just start getting to them before they can start producing. These plants are producing like crazy. I planted them at the beginning of March, and I just wanted to share this with you. Look at that. That's beautiful. Wonderful cucumber. Can't wait to make some good tzatziki out of this. Is to try to put a variety in my bed. So even in this small space right here, I've got watercress, I've got some onions, I've got cilantro, and I've got these nice cucumber plants. Now, there's a little bit of planting involved because my son's coming in this direction because over here is the south. So the planting part is the small plants go in front of the tall plant. Otherwise, what would happen? The tall plants would block the sunlight. But a big reason to plant multiple things in a bed is, frankly, it confuses the bugs. If you think about it, if you're a bug and you love watercress, you're probably going to work your way all the way up this row. And if there's another row of watercress next to it, bam, the buffet is still open and they're just going to keep on eating. Watering, very important. And it's really important, especially, here in Florida, where it gets really hot and we have this sandy soil that even if you put a lot of compost in, it's not going to absorb or keep water down low. It's just going to let things drain out. So it's important to keep an eye on your plants. Make sure they're not wilting or looking sad. I've got a limited space. So what I really want to do is try to utilize as much space as possible. I mentioned the cucumbers, the tall plants behind the short plant. But, you know, these are some long beans. Love long beans. Oh, they're so great. And they're really easy to grow. You can see this plant's already starting to produce, even though it's very young. But I put these trellises in, you know, and this gives me a whole vertical space. And I still have room down here for tomatoes and a little bit of eggplant. So it's a great utilization of space. It can actually be really good for the plants. You know, it keeps things off the ground. And frankly, with these long beans, they love it. They want to have that tall space.
Hopefully these 10 tips will help you to start your own backyard garden. And stay tuned to Eagle News for the top 10 don'ts for backyard gardening. Pensacola, Florida, Jim Sewell, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you so much, Jim, for all of those helpful tips. And as you heard him say, come back tomorrow to learn about the don'ts of growing our own veggies. Well, thank you to Eagle News team tonight. Let's join together and continue to thank our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. We appreciate all of you, and we thank you. That is today's Eagle News America. Keep safe. We live in interesting times.